These are two of the worst official movie posters I have ever seen. They are bad. Hi guys, Keeter64 here, and today I'm going to be talking about movie posters, specifically bad movie posters, because a lot of the current movie posters are pretty bad. So I'm going to look at some specific ones, point out what I think is bad about them. You know, I can recognize bad Photoshop because I've done bad Photoshop, so I know when I see it. And kind of take a look at some of those bad posters, kind of point out what's bad about them. Look at some good posters as well. Now, I've already filmed this video, but it was a very long video, so I'm splitting it up into two. So in the first part in this video, I'll explain what actually made me decide to just go ahead and do this video. And we'll look at some Spider-Man posters and some X-Men posters. And I'll share some of the posters that I've done just so you can see what I've done. And keep in mind, I use free software, and I'm not trained to be a graphic design artist. I literally figured out everything on my own and use free software. So comparing the two of our posters, mine shouldn't even be in the same league, and arguably it might be better. I think that they're better than some posters we're going to take a look at. As a matter of fact, I can tell you objectively that some of my posters are better than some of the posters I'm going to be talking about here today. Official release posters that are really, really bad. So yeah. In the second video, we'll talk about more of the good posters. There's some bad posters that I'm also going to be talking about in the second video that are kind of carried over. Primarily, we'll focus on Spider-Man and X-Men posters in this video. A variety of other movie posters in the second video, and then really focus on some really good movie posters, and so you can have that comparison, because there are classic movie posters that we all would recognize if we've seen them. There's great movie poster artists like John Alvin and Drew Struzan, who I actually have met, and I got him to sign my book, so I thought that was really awesome. And so there's really good movie posters out there. There's current movie posters that are being made right now that are actually really, really good that the studios just don't want to use. And I'm going to be talking more about that kind of stuff in the second video. In this video, we'll mostly focus on what made me do this video, which was John Flickinger, the Flick Pick. He is a YouTuber. He's been on YouTube for more than 10 years. And I have a funny story about how I found his channel, and you know, he's commented on some of my videos in the past, and I commented on this video that he did about the Spider-Man 4K and the art that they decided to use for the 4K, because this art isn't just, hey, these movie posters are bad. The movie posters are usually used in the art, so you get that carryover, and in this case, you actually got the worst carryover into some art. So I won't really say exactly what John said. I'll just pass it on to John so you can hear it exactly from his mouth.
Now look closely at this artwork on the screen. Spider-Man is swinging across the city. He has his web in the most awkward position you could, and to me it looks like Spider-Man's about to floss his ass with his web. Like he's going to give himself a web wedgie. It's just the weirdest pose you could ever, like, put the web in front of him. Like it's like behind him, between his legs, he's straddling it, he's riding it like a witch on a broomstick.
I agree with John. This art is not very good. This, out of all of the posters to choose to put on a 4K, why would you pick this one? It's probably the worst poster. And not only is it the worst poster, it's not even designed correctly. They didn't even pull it properly. So we're going to talk about that. But after he cut this into a clip from his live stream and made a video on it, and I commented on it, and this is what I said. I agree, John. That is a strange and boring layout. Movie art has gotten terrible over the last few years. That first Spider-Man Homecoming poster was some of the worst Photoshop I had seen for a major release. It was almost like clip art. That initial Aquaman poster had copy and paste sea creatures all over it to fill out the background, and Aquaman wasn't even blended into the scene. Now, I'm not expecting Drew Struzan quality anymore, but I at least like something that is better than what I can make. And John liked it. So thank you, John, for liking my comment. So we're going to look at the Spider-Man Homecoming poster that I mentioned in this comment first. And that's what I want to talk about first. So pulling up this poster, you can already see the colors. The color choices make no sense here. There's fire, there's purple electricity for some reason. And the yellow lettering in the July 7th doesn't even match up with the yellow that they chose in the actual title. It sticks out like a sore thumb. But what's worse than that is like all of these characters, the lighting is hitting them from all kinds of different directions. It really doesn't even feel like they're in the same scene. I mean, they aren't in the same scene. It's clip art, like I said in my comment. Iron Man looks very tacked on. The layout is very strange as well, because it, like, normally in poster design, you have, if you're gonna have a bunch of characters together, there's usually some kind of focal point that draws your eye to it. There's nothing in here that really draws your eye to. There's no focal point in this poster. Everything looks very disjointed. It's all off to the side slightly too. Like all the characters are kind of on the right side of the poster. And that's very strange because it makes everything else look off kilter. There's more negative space here on the left side than there is on the right side because all the characters are kind of conglomerated here. The colors aren't good. It just looks like really bad Photoshop. Okay, and I know because I've made bad Photoshop movie posters before, and I know it when I see it. But as I said, I'll show you some of my posters in this video, just so you can kind of have comparisons to what I do or what I've done versus what these posters are that we're talking about here. And keep in mind, I use free software, and I did not go to school for graphic design. I'm self-taught. And over the years, I just got a little bit better and learned new tricks and stuff on my own to make something that looks, I think, fairly decent for an amateur that uses free software. These are big budget movies, okay? They should be better than this. So this Spider-Man Homecoming, okay? Now here's the thing is Spider-Man movie posters have been terrible. So we'll look at the next Spider-Man movie. So here's the poster from Spider-Man Far From Home. This was one of the main posters that was used. We'll look at the other one here in a second, but this one I just wanted to point out because this also is very poorly done. So you have all these characters that are kind of coming out of this Spider-Man chrome emblem, and the lighting from the chrome emblem makes no sense. There should be lighting obviously up at the top because you have the backgrounds there with you know, the areas basically to let you know that, hey, this takes place in Europe. Here's some stuff you might recognize. We'll put it on the poster so you know this takes place in Europe. Fair enough. But since that stuff's up at the top, it should be, you know, having light from the chrome emblem there. But why is there light at the bottom of the poster? Like, where's the backlight coming from? Because that's all just flat blue right there. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The characters are all looking off in different directions, which is strange. Like, Nick Fury's kind of looking this way, and Spider-Man's looking this way, and Mysterio's kind of looking straight at you like he knows he's getting a picture taken. And then, coming out of the Spider-Man emblem here, Nick Fury's got a gun, and his hands are obviously very visible, and Mysterio's hand is also visible from the outside. Why is Spider-Man's hand cut off with the emblem here? Well, I mean, most likely it's meant to look like, you know, they don't want it to, they wanted to make it still look like a Spider-Man emblem, so they cut it off there, but it looks strange when their hands are hanging off of, and arms are hanging out outside the emblem. His hand should continue and be outside this emblem based on the positioning here. If you look at the top, this should be white. These credits should not be this color yellow. It stands out terribly. Now getting into the No Way Home poster, most specifically the 4K that obviously John was talking about here. Yes, it doesn't make any sense. There should be a spider web here, and the spider web goes down underneath him, so it looks like it's going underneath him, like he's kind of flipping up in the air. Maybe he just got done flipping and he's still flipping. I don't really know. It looks very strange. I kind of agree with John. It kind of looks like he's about to floss somewhere with that thing. But if you actually look at the IMAX poster that this is based on, you can clearly see a spider web that goes up through the IMAX symbol all the way up to the top of the poster. Again, it's not like this is such a great poster design. I think this poster design is very weak, but at least Spider-Man is centered, so at least your gaze, the focal point of the poster is Spider-Man right there in the center. It looks a lot better than what the 4K does because the spider web's been removed. But either way, it's just like, this is such a boring poster. Like, why would you want to put this on a 4K? And there's lots of different covers for the 4K, which I'll talk about later as well. I might just do a separate video on that if I can't fit it into this video. So let's look at this Venom poster, okay? There's this V that goes right through the poster here, I guess to stand for Venom. Not that anybody wouldn't know that it's Venom, because the title's right there, and Venom literally takes up half the poster. So this doesn't even make any sense. You know, it's all faded down here like it's a faint paintbrush, and then up at the top it gets darker, and it almost looks like Venom's got wings or something. It's really goofy. If you look at the characters here with Tom Hardy and the two other characters, Venom's not that memorable of a movie. Why is the bad guy here like faded off? Like the body, his legs are faded off into the poster, whereas on the right, her bottom half, it doesn't look as faded off into the poster, only because the stuff that's behind him is the shuttle area, and that's in the background, whereas the stuff that's in front of her, where her legs fade off into it, is in the foreground, or at least that's the appearance that it gives. So it doesn't make any sense. It's like their legs just fade off into nothingness. The colors are really bad, very muted, ugly. I would say as ugly as the way I would say for the color usage in it. I mean, granted, there's not that much color in the movie, but still, you want something a little bit more appealing than this.
Too much.
There's just too much junk in the poster. As you get down to the bottom, like everything's just piled up, just random scenes from the movie are in here. And like I said, Venom takes up half the poster at the top, and then everything else is just crammed down here in the bottom with just random scenes of police cars and symbiotes fighting and shuttles and the Golden Gate Bridge, so you know that it's in San Francisco, because without that, you wouldn't know it's in San Francisco. Just everything in this poster just looks very disjointed. Let's look at Venom 2, shall we? Okay, so Venom 2, again, it's got this V. At least it doesn't look quite as bad as the last one. If you zoom in, you can see that there's some architecture in the V here. Again, the Golden Gate Bridge is over here, and I don't know what building this is, but there's stuff that's like very faintly put into this V for some reason. At least the V gives you some kind of focal point to put your eye towards, like all these characters at least are positioned in a way that's somewhat appealing. But you know, the lighting again, it just makes everything look very disjointed. Woody Harrelson, the lighting on him, he really does feel like he's just a piece of clip art. Like he looks like he's just been tacked onto the movie poster after they've already designed it, or maybe they had somebody else and they already had this poster designed. They're like, let's put Woody Harrelson there instead, and they just plugged him in. It looks very disjointed from the poster. X-Men Days of Future Past. This is another movie that I really liked. I think it's one of the best X-Men movies. It's this and X2 are the top two X-Men movies for me. And I wanted a movie poster. I wanted a movie poster to put on the wall, because this is probably my favorite X-Men movie. But this poster's bad. I mean, it's not a good poster.
Quite unfortunate.
What's worse than that is just the way all these characters are just slapped on here. There's not really much thought to it at all. What, Colossus is just standing here? Professor Xavier, this fire back here just looks like it's coming from his chair, like he's in a rocket chair. He's about to blast off.
I've got a blast!
It's just, everything looks very slapped together. Again, like I would say that the lighting looks a little bit better in this than some of the other posters. What is with Magneto's hand here? Why is there a big light flare right behind him? There's a big lens flare here. Just, you know, they took a bunch of interesting characters and made them not very interesting in this poster. And X-Men has made bad posters. Like, most of the X-Men posters are bad. Look at the First Class posters.
Would you like to see?
So there were two X-Men First Class posters that they revealed. This was the first images from the movie. This is what's supposed to get you hyped, and this is what they gave you. These two posters are literally the laziest things you could do. I can, no joke, slap this thing together in less than 10 minutes. It's really bad. It's really bad. And look, like Magneto, besides the fact that their faces are terribly blended, like slapped on there. The positioning makes no sense. Magneto's like slightly tilted on his silhouette. Like they took the silhouette that was flat and then they slightly tilted it like for some strange reason. I have no idea. Professor X, why is his head right here? Why wouldn't it be in his chest? And why would you not have like the full body of Professor X in his chair with some negative space on the side or something? Like this is a terrible positioning for Professor X. His face is just slapped on there. It literally looks like his face is in his crotch. Like his face is terribly matched. The silhouette of Xavier is terribly put on this poster. These are like two of the worst posters, like by far. These are two of the worst official movie posters I have ever seen. They are bad. What's really sad is that Dark Phoenix, which is the worst X-Men movie. X-Men Dark Phoenix is the worst X-Men movie. It's worse than X3 by far. It's worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I didn't think was possible. Dark Phoenix is a bad movie. I have a review on this channel if you want to check it out. But the poster for that movie is great. This is a very well put together poster. I kind of wish that it was a little bit pushed to the center. Everything's kind of slightly off to the right, but it's a very good looking poster. Obviously good complementary colors here with orange and blue, and all the characters, like you got Storm with the lightning, the stuff that's representative of the character. Maybe have Nightcrawler's Bamf in here would kind of be cool, or maybe Cyclops blasting off here on the blasting out of his eyes here on the right to maybe fill out some of that over there. But just kind of nitpicking ideas. Overall, this is a very well put together poster and is probably the best X-Men movie poster for the worst X-Men movie. So that concludes the first part of my two-part series talking about movie posters. I really wanted to make this one video, but it was just way too long. So I'm glad that I decided to just go ahead and bookend each side and just make this into two videos. So that way I didn't have to cut anything out. And the second video I'll be talking about some more bad movie posters across some other different films, and some of them are worse than some of the ones we've seen here, if you can believe it or not. Except for the X-Men and Magneto posters, nothing's as bad as that. Those are truly terrible movie posters. Thankfully, I don't think they ever got printed and put in theaters or anything, but they were officially put out by the studios. They could have just given me $10. I would have made it for them in 10 minutes. But regardless, in the next video, we'll also be talking about current posters that are being made that the studios just aren't using. Mondo, for those who follow movie posters and stuff like that, you've heard of Mondo. I'll be talking about Mondo. I'll be talking about some of the classic artists as well, movie poster artists like John Alvin and again Drew Struzan, who is my favorite movie poster artist. So we'll be delving more into that in the conclusion of talking about the movie posters. But what do you guys think? What were some of the worst movie posters out of the ones that I named? What are some of the worst movie posters that you recall? Because they may be in my next video, but I'm curious to see what you guys think based on what you've seen so far. I don't really want to rag on the artist too much because I have no idea. Maybe they were under time constraints and that's why they put out what they put out. Who knows? I'm going to blame the studios and not the artists. So if you're watching this and you're one of the artists who worked on any of these posters, except for that Xavier Magneto one, there's no excuse for that. That's a terrible movie poster. If you worked on any of the other movie posters here, I hope you take it as a critique and not an insult, and I don't blame you, I blame the studios, because the studios are the ones who decided to go with these movie posters and use them as the face of their movie. I know you can do better, and I want you guys to do better movie posters. I really don't want movie poster art to die and just be put on the wayside, which is what's been happening. So again, we'll talk about more of that in the second part. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Thank you subscribers, because you guys are awesome. And if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm Geechu64, and I'll always tell you the truth.